Ever since I could remember, the concept of wandering and exploring the wilderness, immersing myself in nature's solitude, held an inexplicably powerful allure to it. This crave for adventure, for untouched realms and the thrill of the unknown drew me to a remote sanctuary of nature, the Danube Delta in Eastern Europe. Known for its mesmerizing wetlands, hosts of bionetworks, and ancient lore, the vast expanse of the delta promised an adventure of a lifetime. At the heart of the delta was a solitary swamp. It was here that I decided to set up camp. Setting up the camp in the midst of the marshy wetlands on the outskirts of an eerily beautiful swamp, I could feel a strange sense of tranquility descending upon me. As nightfall began devouring the final few glimpses of the golden rays, the landscape undertook a majestic transformation. The swamp seemed to come alive, its vegetation rustling gently as if whispering cryptic tales among themselves. The night enveloped the wilderness like an all-consuming celestial entity. My senses buzzed with high alert, registering each note of the haunting symphony resonating through the swamp. A strange blend of peculiar rustles, guttural animalistic croaks, and the soft lapping of the water against the marsh began echoing across the horizon. Odd shadows danced under the twinkle of the distant stars reflected on the black swamp waters. Sleep struggled against the overwhelming onslaught of the uncanny concert of the swamp that night. The low hum progressive to a roiling crescendo of sound sent chills cascading down my spine. Alarm bells within warned me against the eerie presence that somehow felt intrusive and violated the otherwise undisturbed harmony of the wilderness. The daybreak brought with it a petrifying revelation. The borders of the swamp had been mysteriously ravaged as if an unseen entity attempted to locate the source of intrusion during nocturnal hours. Nervousness creeped in like an uninvited guest, but refused to leave just as obstinately. The dread became all the more palpable when I came face to face with the monstrous creature of the swamp. The nightmare unfolded as a gargantuan freshwater sturgeon floated to the surface, its grotesque form glistening ungodly under the morning sun. This encounter completely upset the previously calm narrative of this adventure. The days following turned into a string of uncanny occurrences that built up a growing tension. The silence that surrounds took up a subtly threatening throb. The ground beneath seemed to be holding its breath, the wind carried with it cold trails of trepidation, as if the swamp waited for the grand finale. An omnipresent spectral figure began seeping into my dreams. A living abomination, a phantasmic nightmare, the swamp spirit was the unspeakable entity of the local lore. The legends described the creature as an unnatural abomination, a hideous silhouette that paced around the swamp every night, keeping vigil on its territory and warding off unwelcome intrusions. It was then the unutterable horror that the locals had enshrined in their lore took form before my eyes. A grotesque creature of despair stood towering over me, the specter of Danube. It materialized out of thin ether, a beacon of unyielding terror. The entity was inexplicably terrifying, a surreal image that still scorches through my memories. Overwhelmed by the primal dread though I was, I pleaded for survival, my stammering vocal cords formulating a promised pact of non-disturbance of its delta. As though my desperate plea struck a chord in the primordial creature, it permitted my departure. It receded gently, its grotesque form dissolving into the murky swamp, leaving behind a clear, somber path leading me out. I made a mad dash, my sanity hanging by a mere thread, until I was far from the consuming grip of the Danube Delta. The nightmarish encounter has left an indelible mark on my psyche, a scar etched so deep that it resurfaces even after months. Each gust of wind carries with it the breath of the swamp, its whispers echoing through the cavernous hollow of my heart persistently. The daunting specter visits and revisits my dreams, turning them into unbearable nightmares. My tale remains etched in the annals as a chilling reminder to every adventurer. I recount the menacing terror I encountered with a morbid precision even today, each detail casting a shadow of terror on the faces of my listeners. Some part of this world need to be revered from a distance, their secrets veiled from human fascination and their silence left undisturbed. For some horrors dwell in the hushed whispers of swamps and crevices of the unknown, their wrath and territorial inscriptions oft left ignored by daring adventurers marred by insatiable curiosity. A fervent enthusiast for adventure and a connoisseur of solitude, peace, and all to be found in the lap of Mother Nature, I was always intrigued by the tales of mysterious, yet supposedly alluring elements secluded within the heart of the Florida Everglades. Daring myself to navigate deep into this unseen territory, I decided to embark on a solo camping journey, little aware of the horrors awaiting me. Arriving at a damp yet bewitchingly beautiful marshland near the Everglades, I decided to establish my camping ground adjacent to a serene swamp, framed by towering mangroves and shadowy ferns narrating tales of the ages. The setting was eerily silent and disconcertingly unnerving, but I dismissed the sense of foreboding as a mere product of being in unfamiliar surroundings. In the subsequent quietude of the night, the nipping cold wind whispered curious tales into my tent, sketched in uncanny and cryptic soundscapes. The crickets hummed ominous melodies, and the swamp croaked haunting lullabies. Twinkling stars weaved intricate constellations in the cosmic quilt above, their soft glow reflected in the swamp waters that had been mysteriously hushed. Sleep eluded me through the first night, as the cacophony of unfamiliar sounds echoed throughout the wilderness. The rustling leaves, the exotic night birds, and the peculiar stir in the swamp made for an eerie nightlife symphony. My apprehensions grew throughout the night, the sense of displacement surmounting, as if I had trespassed into the celestial realms of the swamp, now pumping with inexplicable entities. An intimidating encounter with Everglades' all too famous predatory beast, a gargantuan alligator, snapped me back to reality. The dead-eyed gaze, a terrifying grin revealing rows of needle-like teeth, and its predatory silence stunned me. Managing to scare it off, I realized that my venture was into a formidable world that played by rules starkly contrasting those of human society. As one would expect, the experience left a dent in my adventurous spirit. The once inviting calls of the swamp had now begun to molt into ominous whispers, hinting at sheer dread. The sensations now had a stronger visceral edge. I could feel the oppressive chills slide down my back, hear the guttural snarls melt into the wind, and the scent of decay from the marsh clawed its way into my nostrils. An unnerving sense of being watched crept into my senses. It felt as though the opaque curtain between the seen and unseen was parting. A shadowy figure began to flicker at the edge of my subconscious. It was a looming, thick air of malevolence lurking on the periphery of my careful observations, threatening to explode into the realm of the undeniable at any moment. A chance encounter with the unspeakable entity that had haunted my journey for days, the dreaded swamp ape, the ghost of the Everglades, flipped over every existing rationality. A sighting I had denounced as a figment of local folklore, this grotesque creation of nature, with its deep-set gaze searing through my soul, left me pondering upon the very tenets of my existence. Engulfed by the enormity of what lay before my eyes, the raw fear morphed into a desperate prayer for survival. It was a plea, an offering of a pact to this beast that reeked of decay, to escape the relentless horror. Much to my disbelief and relief, the creature let me leave. Unscathed physically, save for the raw terror that gnawed at my sanity, I fled from the bowels of the Everglades. The normally bewildering wild shrubs now fretfully carved an escape path, the menacing horrors of the swamp released me from its visceral grip. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, but not a moment has gone when the lingering dread of the Everglades has left me alone. Each passing breath reeks of marshy foliage, each gust of wind whispers appalling horrors of the swamp, and each plunge into slumber gives me visions of lurking monstrosities. The idea of an adventure has evolved into an unspeakable account of dread and discomfort. With each recital of my harrowing journey to fellow outdoor enthusiasts, I have become a medium of conveying a simple yet poignant message: there are some paths best left unpaved, unexplored, and untouched. The unknowable horrors of Everglades live to bear the witness of this testament. This haunting insignia paints a blur between the mundane and the nightmarish, a boundary I caution all against crossing. For the beauty of the wild comes with its own set of horrors, hidden in the depths of swamps and crevices of the unknown. I have always been a lover of nature. It's a passion that drives me and allures me into the heart of the wilderness, away from the gray mundanity of urban life. I continually find my spirit tethered to the call of the outdoors, and never have I resisted it. However, the touch of tranquility always has its unsettling nuances. And with this incessant yearning for solitude, I embarked on a seemingly innocuous solo camping trip, just a man, his trusted tent, and the expansive serenity of the Florida Everglades and its swamps. The first day was marked by warmth and an unusual sense of calm. I remember setting up my camp near a damp, murky swamp, the evening sun fading away. The last glimmers glanced off the water, casting ominous shadows onto the marsh and the strange vegetation shivering in the evening zephyr. As night unfurled its inky shroud, phantasmal figures formed under the veiled moon. A symphony of hoots, rustles, and slithering whispers reverberated from the impenetrable undergrowth, creating spine-chilling atmospherics. Every rustle seemed like veiled words, every swoosh akin to clandestine specters dodging my gaze, and every silence felt pregnant with foreboding under the watchful eyes of the Everglades. The charm of the swamp was peculiar, to say the least. By daybreak, it was halcyon with its lethargic current, the birds soaring above in a ballet of colorful plumes, and the sun casting reflections as smooth as a mirror. But when twilight set in, the swamp transformed into a terrifying beast, camouflage for the lurking predators. What I hadn't anticipated was an encounter with an alligator, its menacing teeth gleaming under the waning sunlight, and its predatory gaze nearly freezing the blood in my veins. The perplexing and horrifying close shave with the alligator was just the beginning of a series of nerve-wracking incidents. The unnerving presence emanating from the swamp became more palpable, now decidedly unignorable. It was not just a mere feeling anymore. The swamp was alive, and I was the unwitting host to its concealed guests. My fears were more defined when a sense of a watched self became an undeniable reality. A spectral figure started to manifest, heightening my paranoia and amplifying the sense of imminent danger. It wasn't simply an uncanny sensation anymore, but a terrifying rush of fear and helplessness. The inadvertent encounter with the embodiment of a legendary creature, the swamp ape, became the living nightmare of my journey. The sight of the moss-covered monstrosity materializing from the swampy mystery shook me to my core. The primal creature, with its centuries-old gaze of penetrating dread and ancient wisdom, dismantled my sensibilities about the corporeal realm. Unable to process the surreal encounter, I felt cornered. Within the swamp, the sight of the beast, and my brewing desperation. Fear morphed into its extreme form, clawing at my sanity. For the first time in my adventurous life, I pleaded, promising to leave if the creature kept its end. As though it was bound by some ancient order or mutual respect for life, the swamp ape let me leave unscathed, except for my shattered sanity and blistering fear. It was a morbidly beautiful paradox how the path through the swamp seemed illuminated and the dense undergrowth less intimidating as I sprinted away from the heart of the Everglades. Time has played its tricks well. It's been months since my encounter with the primeval horror of the Everglades. I tried immersing myself back into the routine of city life, but the memories gripped at my sanity like skeletal hands. The encounter left a residue on me, a horrifying scar on my psyche. No amount of rainfall can wash away the echoes that still reverberate in the hollows of my heart, the whispers that still return in my dreams, and the deadly gaze that still burns in my nightmares. The word Everglades triggers a cold dread within me, banishing every enthusiastic itch to embark on another adventure. I recount my harrowing escapade with every adventurer I come across now, reminding them to respect the ancient unspoken rule of the wilderness, avoid the places that are peppered with foreboding. Some parts of the world command solitude, respect, and are meant to be left untouched, unfettered, and untamed.